Good morning to all. Myself, Professor T.M. Divakar, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering in Sharad Institute of Technology, College of Engineering, HKG. Today we are going to see human rights and human duties. First of all, we are going to see the origin of the human rights and human duties. So, the emergence of the rights in political thought is generally regarded as relatively recent, though any historical study of rights reveals how indeterminate the philosophical charting of the evolution of the rights has been. So, Reltenal in 1988, he said the human rights are considered the offsprings of natural rights, which themselves evolved from the concept of natural laws. The natural laws, which has played a dominant role in Western political theory of centuries, is that the standard of higher order morality against which all other laws are adjudged. To contest the injustice of human made law, one was to appeal to the greater authority of God or natural law. A human right, by defining, is a universal moral right, something which all men everywhere at all times ought to have, something of which no one may be deprived without a grave affront to justice, something which is owing to every human being simply because he is a human. So eventually this concept of natural law evolved into natural rights, and this change reflected a shift in emphasis from society to the individual. Whereas the natural law provided a basis for curbing excessive state power over society, the natural rights gave individuals the ability to raise claims against the government. Next, the modern conceptions of rights can be traced back to Enlightenment political philosophy and the movement primarily in England, France, and the United States to establish limited form of representative government that would respect the freedom of individual citizens. Next one, a brief history of human rights. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that is UDHR, turns 70 years old and continues to be the international magna carta for all men everywhere. The chair of the United Nations Human Rights Commissions once defined it. However, before the widow of the former President of the United States presented the world with his documents in 1948, so there were prior treaties that recognized the need to give a single equal status to all human beings. Next one, the United Nations pinpoint the origin of human rights to the year 539 BC, when the troops of the Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon. Cyrus freed the slave, declared that all the peoples had the right to choose their own religion, and established racial equality. These and other precepts were recorded on the baked clay cylinder known as the Cyrus cylinder. Those provisions served as inspirations for the first four articles of the UDHR. Next, come to the point. So in the every slides, actually we know what is human rights. So today also come to know what exactly the human rights. Sorry, human rights are the rights inherent to all human beings, whatever our nationality, place of residence, national or ethnic origin, color, religions, language, or any other status. We are all equally entitled to our human rights without discriminations, and these rights are all interrelated, interdependent, and individual. So, Office of the High Commissioner for the Human Rights, up to until the 1990s, the state were considered to be the main parties responsible for human rights violations. And nowadays, in a globalized world with the global integration of the employments, goods, and the service markets, new kinds of violations have emerged, such as what the International Labour Organization. The term modern slavery, defined as any work or service which is extracted from any person under the threat of the penalty, and for which the person has to offer himself or herself, which Pope Francis has already referred to as an evil to be eradicated. This is why the respect for human rights has also become a primary concern in the private sector due to the impact generated by its activities. In this context, the Ruggie principles were created in 2008 specifically in order to end the violence such as the elimination of trade union freedoms, or one frequently cited definition of the human rights posits four necessary requirements. The first one is it must be possessed by all human beings as well as only by human being. Second one is because it is the same right that all human being possesses, it must be possessed equally by all human beings. Third one is because human rights are possessed by all human beings, and we can rule out as possible candidates any of those rights which one might have in virtue of occupying any particular status or relationship. And fourth one, if there are any human rights, they have the additional characteristics of being assertable in a manner of speaking against the whole world. The United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights defines the human rights as human rights inherent to all human beings, whatever our nationality, place, or residence, sex, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, language, or any other status, we are all equally entitled to our human rights without discriminations. Luque principles were adopted by the founding fathers of the United States in the Declarations of Independence in 1776. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creators with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the lives, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So let us come to the human rights. Human right is a charter of rights contained in the Constitution of India. It guarantees civil liberties such that all citizens can lead their lives in a peace and harmony as a citizen of India. These include individual rights common to most liberal democracies, such as equity before law, freedom of speech and expression, and peaceful assembly, etc. The violation of these rights results in punishment as prescribed in the Indian Penal Code, IPC codes. So these are the rights, fundamental rights. Already we have seen that. Just briefly we discuss about the right to protect against the exploitation, rights to equality, rights to religious freedom, right of freedom, right to education and cultural, right to constitutional remedies, right to elementary education. The first one is right to protect against the exploitation. So in that, the abolitions of trafficking in human being and beggar. Next one is the abolition of employment of children below the age of 14 years in dangerous jobs like factories and mines. Next one, beggars practiced in the past by landlords has been declared a crime and is punishable by the law. Trafficking in human for the purpose of slave trade or prostitution is also prohibited by the law. Child labor is considered a gross violation of spirit and provisions of the Constitution. Next, rights to equality. So the Constitution guarantees that all citizens shall be equally protected by the law of country. In Article number 15, the Constitution means that state cannot discriminate any of the individual citizens on the basis of religion, caste, and place of birth. Article number 16 lay down that the state cannot discriminate against anyone in the matter of employment. The state may also reserve posts for backward classes, scheduled caste, and scheduled tribes. Article number 17 of the Constitution, the practice of untouchability, as it offends and anyone doing it is so punishable by the law. Next, rights to religious freedom. Everyone has the right to practice his or her own religion or no religion at all. Next, this right is covered in Article number 27, 25, 26, 28. And the main objective is to sustain the principle of secularism in India. And according to the constitution, all religions are equal before the state and no religions shall be given preference over the others. Citizens are free to practice and propagate any religions of their choice. Next one, rights of freedom. So freedom of speech and expressions which enables an individual to particular in publics to participate in public. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed in the interest of public order, security of the states. Next, freedom to move freely throughout the territory of the India. Next one, rights to education and cultural. As India is a country of many languages, religious and cultural, the constitution provides the special measures in article number 29 and 30 to protect the right of minorities. Any community which has a language and script of its own has the right to conserve and develop it. No citizens can be discriminated against for the admission in the state. All minorities can set up their own education institution. Next one, rights to constitutional remedies. So it is created as one of the main fundamental rights because the constitution recognized the need to protect the right of the citizens. It empowers the citizen to move a court of law in case of any denial of the fundamental rights. In case of imprisonments, the citizens can ask the court to see if it is according to the provisions of the laws of the country. And the last one, according to the article number 32, Indian citizens can stand up and fight for their fundamental rights if they are breached. What are the rights to the elementary educations? So article number 21, on 2nd April 2010, the India joined a group of few countries in the world with a historic law making education the fundamental rights of every child coming into force, making elementary educations an entitlement for the children in the age of 16 to 40. The right of children to free and compulsory education act will directly benefit children who do not go to the school at present. So Prime Minister Manmohan Singh announced the operationalization of this act. So these are the fundamental rights. Next one, we are going to see what are the fundamental duties. The fundamental duties are defined as the moral obligations of all citizens to help promote a spirit of patriotism and to uphold the unity of India. These duties set out in part 4th A of the Constitution concern individual and the nations. Like the directive principles, they are not legally enforceable. So Declaration of Human Duties and Responsibilities. The Declaration of Human Duties and Responsibilities was written for reinforcing the implementation of human rights under the auspices of the UNESCO and the interest of the UN High Commissioner of Human Rights, and was proclaimed in 1998. to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the UDHR in the city of Valencia. Therefore, it is known as Valencia Declarations. Considering that the major challenge for this new century is the effective and efficient realization of human rights for the people, and that at the same time it is needed that all members of human family strive for its fulfillment, the DHDR formulates related duties and responsibilities for our current interdependence. After 50 years of the adoptions of the UDHR and the following human rights instructions, the point of departure of the DHDR preambles is shared concern regarding the lack of political will for enforcing globally human rights. Moreover, the DHDR takes into account new challenges of the global scenario for translating the semantically rights into the duties and responsibilities. So, recognizing the changes that new technologies, scientific development, and the process of mondializations have brought about, and aware of the need to address their impact upon and potential consequences for human rights and fundamental freedoms, states in its preamble. So these are the duties: to abide by the Constitution and respect the national flag and national anthem, to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood amongst all peoples of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sanctional diversities, and to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities, so that the nation rises to higher level of endeavor and achievement, to provide opportunities for the educations by the parents guardians to his child's or a ward between the age of 16 to 14 years as the case may be, to uphold and protect the unity and integrity of India, to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environments including forest, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have a compassion for living creatures. Thank you.